Hey guys, Youngblood with you, and in today's journey through the Starmap, we're going to go ahead and stop off in a relatively small but pretty interesting system called Horus. Now, this system was first discovered back in 2528 by a gal named Marie Sante, who was a 14-year-old girl who ended up stealing a ship from her family to run away. And upon finding this system, she spent about 2 years here completely undetected, just researching everything that she could. And when she finally decided to make this discovery public in 2530, she was the first to ever share an entire system with records of all planets and celestial bodies actually documented. Most of the time you get people that are just bringing in the jump point and other people are finding the rest. Now, Horus early on was known to have connections to the Xian Empire through Relaw, meaning that once the government got that information, the system then became part of the Peri line, which is essentially a buffer between our two species systems. Now, the only people that were allowed to get into this system from this point on were the military, and the few settlers that had really started making a home on Horus 1 didn't really put up much of a fight in leaving. Sante, on the other hand, refused to leave and continued to spend the next years just kind of living in the outer rim of the system, trying to discover what other secrets this system had to share. Now, eventually, military sensors ended up picking up an unidentified ship out in the outer rim, and they ended up dispatching a battle group to go investigate and remove whoever was in that ship. The ship turned out to be Marie's, and with the time and efforts that they wasted on what they thought could have been an invading Xian force, they made getting Sante out of the system a real priority. Now, after this incident, no one ever really saw Marie again. However, in 2545, an informational beacon was found that had contained her journals, and she went on to say that the system had other secrets to share, which ultimately provided to be true, considering there was another jump point to the Xian system of Kepha. And she also said that she regretted sharing the discovery of this system to have it taken away from her. And that was going to be a mistake that she never was going to make again. Now, no one knows where Marie ended up, and no one saw her in other systems. Maybe she ended up moving in with the Xian as an expatriate, or maybe she even spent her remaining years in the Horus, just hiding in that system somewhere, but we never heard from her again. Now, that fact has kind of led to a lot of interest in figuring out the mysteries of Marie Sante, almost like having kind of like the Amelia Earhart conspiracies that are out there, but it's resulted in explorers, scientists, and even talk show hosts trying to kind of unravel the mysteries once and for all. After the Cold War with the Xian came to an end, with the transition into the UEE from the UPE, the system was finally opened up to the public to be able to move in. However, population sizes remained pretty low, as most of the planets here aren't actually all that hospitable, and the lack of natural resources in the system meant that there was a lot of reliance on importing goods from outside systems. Now, the first planet in orbit is Serling, which is the name that Sante gave it when she first discovered the planet. Now, Serling is tidally locked, meaning that it's always going to have one portion of the planet in perpetual daylight facing the star, and the other half is relegated to permanent darkness, and it's just not really all that fit for inhabitation. Really, either side is. However, there is a section of the planet along what's called the Terminator line, which is where the lightness meets the darkness, and is capable of supporting life in that kind of blended area. Now, it's a unique planet, mostly known for wonderful and weird sights, but while it's pretty, the orbit and rotation around the star means that this planet has some pretty constant storms that can be pretty terrible. The layout of the cities here are as you might expect, with the industrial zones where they're typically occupied during the day, where I guess is what you would call quote-unquote day. Those are located on the light side, and the residences located in the darker sides. So while it's not perfect, it does help people try and maintain that natural human need for day and night cycles. Now, while most live permanently either in dark or in light, the most expensive places to rent or buy are right in the middle of the Terminator line, meaning that they get some phenomenal views, either being able to look out and see the dark side, looking out and see the bright side, or even just getting good views of the star. There's also some hotels here that actually are right on the Terminator line, and the entire hotel rotates on a schedule to kind of give people that day-night rhythm that they're used to, especially travelers. Horus 2 is basically a gigantic desert world that's technically located in the Green Band. And while it is a totally barren planet, researchers are trying to figure out a way to terraform this planet, specifically because companies want to capitalize on the relations with the Xian, and being able to produce their goods in close proximity would be a huge benefit to their ability to do business. Now, nothing really outside of just studying options has been done here, but it does appear to be heading in that direction, despite not any water being on this planet. Horus 3 is a super Jupiter that's got an incredibly dense atmosphere that makes it many times more massive than the typical gas giants we see elsewhere in the universe. Now, we don't have any real information regarding the purity of the atmosphere to know how good of a candidate this place is going to be for refueling, but if it's at least moderate, it could be a good way to make some money by refueling folks between the Xian and human space on long journeys. Bring the Starfarer out, fill up, and then pay, or have people pay to go on further travels with your fuel. Now, there is an asteroid belt in the system, so it might be a decent mining location, especially since it seems that most people here are focused on the relationship between trading with the Xian as opposed to resource collection. But I can't definitely say if this is going to be a good place to bring the Orion or not. Considering they've said in the lore that the system doesn't have a lot of resources, I'm going to go ahead and guess that the asteroid field was included in that, but we'll have to see. In addition to the jumps to Kefa and Rila we've already talked about, there's a third jump point to Gurzel and another one to Kiel. So as far as who's going to find a good time in this system, I think anyone checking out the Terminator line is going to find it worth their time. I know it's something that I want to see in game, so I think tourism here is going to likely do pretty well. Now, a border system with another race seems to offer obvious benefits to traders wanting to get more rare goods or things that are in demand that may not be available in other parts of space. I also wonder a little bit about Horus 2 to see if it's actually a decent place for those wanting to operate in an interspecies black market. Especially when you consider that a desert planet is likely not on too many people's radar. And then the last thing I would say is, bounty hunting here may be an interesting option when you consider that you've potentially got Xian criminals fleeing into human space or human criminals fleeing into Xian space. It's going to be kind of a hub for that type of activity, and you might be able to get some interspecies bounty hunting or prevent humans from running away and stop that business that way. So it could be a moneymaker in that regard. But ultimately, it's an interesting place. It's not real clear on what the real profitable operations are going to be, but there are options I think that you're going to see. But it's really just kind of a neat place, and I think between two empires makes it a little bit unique. So if you guys have questions about the system, let me know. Otherwise, stay tuned for more content. There's going to be more coming soon. Appreciate you all watching. Take care.